Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to sit down and just talk about my entire pregnancy experience because originally when I found out I was pregnant, I really wanted to do bump dates and that just didn't happen. So now that I have a little bit of a following on my channel and on my blog, I wanted to just sit down and kind of talk about, my pregnancy, how I found out I was pregnant, and just kind of my whole pregnancy throughout. So this is going to be everything kind of in a summary. Right now I am 38 weeks and 3 days pregnant. So I'm 3 days away from being admitted, and we will be doing Cervidil and then being induced in 4 days. So I'm near the end of my pregnancy and I really haven't documented a whole lot on how I've been feeling and just my whole journey throughout my pregnancy. So that is what I'm going to be doing today. I'm going to take you back to February. The day that I found out I was pregnant was February 16th, 2017. I woke up early in the morning and my stomach hurt, but not like, bad food the night before. It wasn't like menstrual cramping like I was about to get my period. I don't know, I just felt really off. It was kind of a gut ache that I hadn't really experienced before. So I was actually flying out that day to go to Vegas with my mom for a girls trip, and I decided, you know what, I'm gonna take a test just to be safe, even though in my head I had absolutely no expectation that I would be pregnant at all. I was tracking my ovulation at the time, not to conceive. We were not trying to get pregnant. My fiance and I had just gotten engaged the month before, and we had talked about starting a family right away after we were married, maybe starting to try a couple months before our wedding. And in high school, I had a lot of reproductive issues that actually caused me to be infertile for a really long time throughout my teenage years. And I wasn't sure that that was something that was going to carry on into my 20s and something that would affect me long term. So I started to track my ovulation for a few months before that to make sure I was ovulating every cycle. Everything was very irregular. I never, was able to tell if I was going to ovulate. There was no pattern to my ovulation. I would ovulate really late in my cycles for the most part, but it was never on a consistent day because my cycles were so irregular. So I'm not sure how I missed that month, but somehow I missed a positive ovulation. And when I took a test on February 16th, I took one of the really cheap strips that came with the ovulation tests, and that line showed up so fast, so dark. I mean, I thought I had to have been at least a month pregnant for it to be that dark, and that would have been nearly impossible because I had had a period just a few weeks before that. So I was just in complete disbelief that I could pick up on a really cheap pregnancy test that I was pregnant that fast with that dark of a positive line. I FaceTimed my mom right away and I told her because I can't keep anything from her. I tell her everything. And then I went and bought a digital test because I was still in disbelief. I woke up my fiance. This was at like 5 in the morning. I woke up my fiance. I told him. He was still like half asleep, so he really wasn't, I think, grasping anything that I was telling him whatsoever. But he also said, yeah, go ahead and get a digital test. And so, yeah, I did that. And that digital test, sure enough, was pregnant. So before I flew out that day, I went and had lab work done at the hospital where I work at. And by the time I got to the airport that afternoon to fly out to Vegas, they had called me back and had already given me the results to my HCG test, which was 734, I believe. And that indicated I was about 3 to 4 weeks pregnant, I want to say. And so sure enough, my Vegas trip was completely sober and still fun, but immediately I was very, very fatigued. That was the biggest symptom of my first trimester, was fatigue. And so when I got there, I went and I bought prenatals, and I bought some stuff for motion sickness because I was already starting to get motion sickness at that point, or morning sickness, especially with flying. So throughout my first trimester, I rarely had morning sickness. The only time I would get sick or get nausea was when I was taking my prenatals first thing in the morning. So I ended up taking my prenatals with my biggest meal, which was dinner, and then I felt fine. I was also drinking ginger tea pretty regularly. I use the pink stork tea. I will link the brand down below. And I think that majorly helped me before the onset of the nausea kind of came on, because I would drink it first thing in the morning and then I would be fine throughout the day. My fatigue went away pretty quickly as well. Towards the end of my first trimester, I did start to get a lot of ligament pain, a lot of growing pains. And up to that point, I had no weight gain or anything like that. I had really not too many food aversions. The only thing I really couldn't eat or tolerate was raw chicken. Just the thought of like preparing raw chicken to be cooked for dinner or something like that, I couldn't handle. So that kind of weaned me of my entire appetite for chicken in general. So I really have not eaten chicken much my entire pregnancy for that reason. My second trimester was pretty much awesome. I was definitely in the glowing phase, they call it. I did have ligament pain, but it was nothing that was unbearable. I didn't start to gain any weight, I think, until I was 20 weeks. I finally started to put on like a pound or two, and then slowly progressed from there. And I felt great the entire time. Once I hit my third trimester, that 28-week mark, everything completely changed almost overnight. I was bombarded with extreme fatigue, a lot of nausea. I was very uncomfortable. The weight started to come on a little bit faster, and definitely by around 32 weeks was when getting through each and every day was such a task for me, because I was so tired. I was starting to swell in my feet after working all day. I worked Monday through Friday full time, and I would have to call my parents or my fiance, someone to talk to me while I was driving home. I have a 30-minute commute, just to keep me from falling asleep. That's how exhausted I was. I have a really hard time putting my shoes on. It takes me forever to get ready in the morning now because I move so slow, and because my belly is in the way of everything. All of my weight gain, I've gained 26 pounds my pregnancy so far, and all of my weight is in my belly. It went nowhere else. So bending over to put my shoes on, trying to put my pants on, everything is just 10 times harder than it used to be. And it is just so exhausting, and sometimes it is mentally draining. I mean, I'll break down every now and then just because I feel like, how am I going to do this for another week or another day? And it's so mentally draining. But being constantly uncomfortable and being uncomfortable and thinking about it short term, how am I going to get through this day or tomorrow? It makes it so much harder. So I've been trying to look at it long term, that I'm doing all of this because I'm growing a human and she's healthy, and that's all I have to be thankful for. You know, everything that's happening to my body is worth it for her health and her safety, and to make sure that she comes into the world as healthy as she can be. Now that I am just over 38 weeks, I had my membrane sweep at my 38-week appointment a few days ago, and since then my contractions have picked up a little bit. Some of them are just Braxton Hicks. Some of them I can tell are real contractions because they are very crampy. My Braxton Hicks really aren't crampy. So that's how I can kind of tell the difference. At this point, I'm not expecting to go into labor on my own because I am getting admitted and induced at 39 weeks. So being my first pregnancy, I know things take a little bit more time, or at least they can. For the most part, it's pretty common for that to happen with first-time pregnancies. And I have done everything I can to try and go into labor on my own up to this point, and nothing has really worked. So I'm just going to take it easy for the next few days, and just, you know, I'm going to have to let them induce me and let it happen the way it's supposed to, because at this point she is so comfy in there, I think, that she's just not ready. So I can't force her to come out before she's ready unless they're doing an induction. So we have 3 more days and I will be admitted for Cervidil and then induce the following morning. That is where I'm at. As far as trying to induce labor naturally at home, my OB recommended primrose oil capsules, which I have been taking orally and vaginally, and red raspberry leaf tea, which is not meant to induce labor, but it's meant to strengthen your uterus, making labor a little bit smoother, a little less painful, just strengthening all the muscles in your uterus and around that area for your contractions. So everything is meant to be a little bit more bearable. I've attempted nipple stimulation, which I'm very sensitive right now, so that I just cannot do, because from what I've heard from other gals, I mean, it's something that you have to do for like an hour or so at a time, multiple times a day. I'm just too sensitive for that right now. Everything's sore, so that option is completely off the table for me. I walk a ton at work. It really hasn't done anything. So that's just where I'm at right now. I've got 3 more days. I do plan to vlog the labor and part of my delivery. I'm not sure that I'm going to be filming during the actual delivery, but we will be filming before and after. So that's where I'm at. Thank you for listening to my pregnancy update so far of my entire pregnancy. If you have any questions or anything that you want me to answer, leave them in the comments below. I can definitely do another video or just answer your questions one-on-one. I love hearing from you guys, so thank you again for watching, and I will see you in my next video.